What's up, everybody? I'm Christian Sands, and welcome back to The Sandbox, brought to you by the Monterey Jazz Festival. Today's episode is all about composition and arranging, two of my favorite things to do. And joining me today are two of my favorite and absolute masters of composition and arranging, all the way from Los Angeles, California, Billy Childs, and from Harlem, Miho Hazama. Welcome, guys.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Good to see you too.
Yeah. So how's it going? How's it feeling being stuck at home?
It's a challenge, but you have to do things to stay inspired. Fortunately I have some projects that I'm working on. It keeps me busy. Keeps my mind off of the isolation. But it's a challenge.
Yeah. How about you, Miho?
Yeah, I agree with you, Billy. Well, I thought that being stuck in my apartment is a part of my job all the time because of writing. You need to be stuck in your room and then, work on your music all the time. So when the lockdown started, I thought that, it's going to be kind of the same as, normal for me. It was not. For me, everyone should be working as normal so that I can be stuck in my apartment for a normal reason.
Right.
So it's not normal anymore. So I struggled a little bit too, but luckily I still have writings to do as well. So, I try to be normal, to stay, calm and to get inspired. As well.
Yeah. So let's just jump right into it. Getting prepared for this interview. First of all, it's weird for me giving interviews. So it's a lot of fun to do and a lot of preparation. So this time I decided to ask some of the fans, some of your fans, some people that are fans of the festival, some people that are just fans of jazz and music, just different questions to ask you guys, amongst the questions that I have already. But let's just start from here. Let's just start from, what makes a good composition? I'll ask you, Billy, what do you think?
What makes a good composition?
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know. I guess what makes a good composition is when people hear it and they like it.
Yeah.
The thing that I focus on, what works for me a lot, is I try to reel people in through the melody. I found that melody and structure are things that make people, like the melody kind of invites people into my world. I think people like a good melody ultimately. And so I approach it from that thing first. And then structurally, I think, to keep people engaged is a matter of structure. Since music happens in time, you want to manage that time through composing, through structure, through various forms that you learn from checking out other music. And so I think those two elements are the most important things for me in terms of making a composition compelling.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question as well?
Really?
Oh, this is the first time you guys met too. That's right.
I wanted to say that this is, I've been a fan of music.
I've been a huge fan of, your music as well. So is, Christian's playing. Well, since you both play piano, what's the process of your composition? Do you use piano for your composition? Do you play to make a melody, or what would you do that?
And then I'm gonna turn the question back around on you too. I have various ways that I compose, that I start out. Sometimes I'll start out with a pattern on the piano. Sometimes I'll start out with a melody. I rarely start out with a harmonic progression. The harmony, in my view, kind of serves the melody, I think, and also helps with the structure. It kind of helps to direct the piece in a certain direction. So sometimes, but if I'm writing something contrapuntal, with a lot of counterpoint, sometimes I'll just write on a pad because it's more important for me to see things visually than it is to actually hear it. with counterpoint, a lot of times it's a matter of because I see music in shapes, so it's a matter of seeing the shape of the line and knowing what kind of line will work well against that. So that's kind of my process. I like to have a story also, so I like the music to follow a storyline. But what about you?
Well, so my brain actually works as orchestra. It's not a piano. It's nothing like a brass band or a big band, but orchestra with the strings and brass and a classical percussion and winds. Because I used to listen to a lot of symphonic music, I grew up with just listening to a lot of symphonic music. So whenever I compose, well, to answer Christian's first question, I think what makes the good music for me is player. Like I do have a specific tone color for, my chamber orchestra. If someone were to commission me something, well, like let's say if Christian commissions me something, then I literally have to listen to your playing. Christian's playing a lot to think about what he would do or what I want him to do. That kind of thing. Yeah. So that
which we have done.
Yes. So that's like that's like a collaboration.
That's a approach like Duke Ellington had.
Exactly.
Where he wrote for his players.
Exactly.
Well, that actually goes into my question here. Who were some of your early influences on composition? Did you have anybody that you were like, man, my favorite composer at a certain time was Duke or, Ravel or anybody like that?
Is that for me or Miho?
Anybody.
Go ahead.
Okay. I started out like similar to you, Miho. I started out listening. My mother loved Baroque music, actually, so she played Bach, and which engendered my love for counterpoint because I would always love the fugue. The part where there would be a melody and then there'd be another melody following after that. Yeah. So earliest composers that influenced me were Bach. But also, as I grew older, I got into Paul Hindemith a lot. Yeah. Paul Hindemith I heard Mathis der Mahler. My friend Larry Klein turned me on to this. He said, "Hey, check this out," and I heard it, and I was hooked. It just floored me. Also, I have to mention, like as from the arranging standpoint, there are probably like three main arrangers that influenced me. There's one that gets talked about too little is Charles Stepney. Charles Stepney wrote, he was from Chicago, and he wrote for like this group, the Rotary Connection out of Chicago, for Minnie Riperton. And he was a brilliant. There's an album called Come to My Garden, and it's a masterpiece. Another one is Don Sebesky. He was like a house arranger for CTI. Yeah. And then there's a guy, Peter Matz, who wrote arrangements for Barbra Streisand a lot. And this album, Color Me Barbara, it's just amazing arrangements. So those are my influences.
Yeah.
What about you, Miho?
My initial influence would be definitely from classical music world, especially symphonic music. So my Bible, I would say still now, is a suite dedicated to the city Rome in Italy by Otorino Respighi. That's an Italian composer.
Fountains of Rome.
Yes, Pines of Rome, Fontaine, also festival in Rome, everything. Yeah. But my absolute favorite is Pines of Rome. Yeah. So I used to read the scores all the time, and I still enjoy that. And every time I listen or, see score, analyze it, I still discover something new. Not only about composition, but orchestration of that piece is phenomenal. So I think I'm still, stick with that one all the time. Since when I discovered that piece for the first time, I was 10 years old. So yeah, it's been over 20 years, but I'm still stick with that.
Yeah, there you go. Now, when you're writing, I mean, we talked about particular artists, but can we get deeper into that? Like, say, voice types. Can we talk about what's the difference in, say, Diane's voice, which is, you know, she has such a range of things that she can do, and as opposed to Sting, who has a range, but it's a little bit of a different color, a different timbre. Does that affect how you write around it? Does it depend on the type of piece? Does it depend on the song? Or
Well, Diane and I, the difference between Diane and Sting, other than the obvious, is that Diane and I know each other from 1977, and we grew up together, and she's like a sister to me. So we are cut from the same cloth, and we have similar tastes, similar things that we go for in music. You know, larger than life things, epic type of things. You know. And so when she asks me to arrange, we don't even have to exchange a lot of words. I just know what she needs. With Sting, you know, that was through Chris Brody, and that was more like kind of an assignment, because they were looking for a very specific thing that didn't have much to do with me. It was more like I had to come and suss out what they wanted, and how it would work best for them. So.
Okay. Miho, so as far as just arranging, when I first met you, you were just straight up just jazz pianist, like, and you were killing. I remember just being in class with you, and I was like, man, she's bad, you know. And I absolutely love all your recordings. I listen to them frequently, you know, from journey to journey. I think it's Mr. O, first of all, is like ridiculous, you know. But I want to talk about your last recording, Danced in Nowhere, right? 2019 came out last year. The song Run. Yeah. I think is so cool. I think it's so super dope. Just the use of the textures you use. How did you come up with that? How did you come up with like the drum pattern and the harmony choices, or, you know, just the piano rhythm that you're doing underneath? Like, how did you come up with that?
Well, that particular piece was something very easy. It's not about a concept. It's not about experience or anything like that. But at the time, I was writing a lot of big band music, because I was in an organization where I can get to play with big band for just to experiment with. But as you may know by now, you know, big band is not my thing. You know, my brain always works with, you know, strings, and then I always had to struggle with getting a big band sound out from my brain to my paper. So I got this opportunity to work with chamber orchestra, or like a really close instrumentation as my chamber orchestra at the Jazz Gallery in New York City. And I got so excited, because there was a one violin, two violas, and one cello in that chamber orchestra, as well as some, you know, jazz bracelet section. And then those are really killing jazz players as well. And I knew most of them in person as well. So I got so excited, and then somehow those sound, especially the beginning, with string harmonics, that just came to my mind right away. And I composed that piece so fast. I don't know why, but it was just, you know, because of my happiness for this instrumentation. That's how much I really love, you know, having the strings in my band, I guess. But I got so excited, and then I composed it so fast. And then I usually, you know, struggle so much for a composition. So I was just surprised at how quick that was, and how energetic that piece became. So I just thought, okay, this title is something that is so fast or energetic. So the title became Run, just to keep going, something like that.
I like
it. But okay, Well, to return your comment about me playing piano, I actually had an interview for your unique new record, and interviewer asked me how you guys met.
Yeah.
So I said, when I went to Manhattan School of Music, and that was the first week of the school for me. You were 1 year behind me, and then you were in a classroom and then playing something really ridiculous thing. And I was just watching towards the end of the room, just standing up and just coming into the classroom, and then this stranger just plays piano so calmly but so beautifully. And my initial thought was, oh wow, I mean, this guy is in a school. I came here for nothing. Okay, first I have to start playing piano because this is not my thing at all. I never be able to play like that guy. Okay, next, what I'm gonna do here? Maybe not piano. Maybe composition. Maybe orchestration. Maybe that was my initial thought.
It's funny because I think I remember that day too. I think we were in it's like the 5th floor, 4th floor, something like that. I actually remember that day. Yeah, man.
So I thought that we're thinking something.
That's beautiful. And here we are now, right?
Yeah.
Well, just speaking of just awesome playing and awesome arranging, Billy, I went back and listened to all the records that I love of yours, and particularly The Child Within.
Oh,
that record,
The
man.
Child Within.
I mean, all of your records. First of all of your records that you have are just.
Thank you.
I want to call them Desert Island records because I need them all.
Oh,
but you do this arrangement of Lover Man. I think it's like the first track on the So can you talk about just what were you thinking and how did you do it? And
I have no idea.
Man,
I don't know what I was thinking.
That sucker is killing.
Yeah, it just I don't know. I really don't remember.
I do.
I know I wanted something that that kind of like I had this what is it? Something like that. And I knew I liked that little melody that I came up with, and I figured out ways to work it out and work it into the piece.
Yeah.
I love asymmetry. I like things that are that don't work out, that have rounded or squared off edges. Excuse me. I like things that are uneven, and so I tried to put that approach into Lover Man,
Yeah.
And I just it's a tune that I love playing. I played it a couple of times with Freddie Hubbard. I played it with as a standard with singers. And so I wanted to put a little different spin on it. And I figured since I was playing with Jeff Watts and Dave Holland and Terrence Blanchard, it's like
just nobody good.
I know, and we recorded it in Avatar, and we recorded it with this engineer, David Baker.
Yeah.
Had a very, very gruff personality, but he was kind of like Rudy Van Gelder, He was an old school, and he just put this real thing on it. It had a real earthy feel to it, So that was a very memorable session. I remember. Yeah.
Dig that. Well, I got 2 more questions for you. It's hard, man. We got to do like a part 2 of this because there's so many other questions I want to ask.
Yeah.
Not
enough time.
Not enough time at all. But I'm going to go with, I have like my whole computer is just full of questions right now. So I'm going to go with your favorite arrangement of all time. If you have a favorite arrangement of, could be a standard, could be anything, just your favorite arrangement of all time.
Jim McNeely, Sing, Sing, Sing.
Wow,
Dig
that
it.
was quick.
That was quick. That was just right on it.
Wow. There's so many. Man, oh God. There's one of my favorites. This one just comes to mind. There's a whole bunch, but it's a Don Sebesky arrangement of "For Someone I Love." It's on the Milt Jackson Sunflower album. Or there's another one, "Little Train," by Don Sebesky. It's on George Benson, "White Rabbit."
Ooh, yeah,
those two kind of come out. But then, of course, there's "Yesterdays" by Peter Max.
Right, it goes on and on. I know this is a hard
Charles
question.
Stepney.
It's a hard question. I know.
Yeah. Can I give you 5?
Yeah, go ahead.
So there's "Little Train." There's "For Someone I Love." There's Charles Stepney, "Only When I'm Dreaming." There's another Don Sebesky arrangement on a Gino Vanelli album. It's called "Black and Blue." It's absolutely stunningly beautiful.
Yeah.
And I don't know what else. Anything.
Pick anything, right?
Jim McNeely.
There you go. Right. I mean, it's a bad man. And then the last question, just a question about just where we are today. Where do you see composition being in the future? Where do you see? Do you see it expanding? Do you see it going into unknown territories? Are there any more unknown territories?
Well, I mean, I see as the world gets smaller, because of things like this, like the internet, and when we, get out of our jails and actually can go around and interact again and congregate, like we were doing before this. I think the world is getting smaller and smaller, and there are a lot of people coming from the idiom of jazz who are incorporating classical music and other cultures of music into the music, and by the same time, people from the classical idiom are more curious about jazz and more curious about improvising. And I think it's getting to a place where we invent all these like subcategories of music. Like when I was coming up, there were only like maybe 2 or 3 subcategories. But since music has blended with so many different cultures, now there's like 1,000, and there's going to be 1,000 more until everybody just stops calling it a subcategory and just calls it music.
There you go.
Yeah, I completely agree. But also, what the beautiful thing about jazz composition is that you can still interact with musicians. Well, there are written part, but also there are improvisation part that you can let jazz musicians, your players, to play something really, freely. And now, under control of this lockdown that we can't really interact with each other in person, I'm just looking forward to having that moment again to play with, people.
Yeah, definitely. Before we go, I know, Billy, you are coming up with a new project in August,
right,
for Mack Avenue. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. It's an album called Acceptance, and I did, and my previous album is called Rebirth. Which is kind of a return because I had all these big lofty projects I was working on. I was writing symphonic music, chamber music. I had my jazz chamber orchestra, did the Laura Nero thing, and so when I did Rebirth, I wanted to kind of scale it down and return to like the jazz small group thing. Still involved composition, but much more focus on my playing and interacting. And so I had a core group with that, and this is kind of like part 2 of that. It's with Eric Harland, Steve Wilson, Hans Glavishnig, and a few other. Elena Penderhughes is on it, Rogerio Boccato, Alicia Olatuja, and Sarah Gazaric sings some background. Aubrey Johnson sings some background. Munyongo Jackson plays percussion. So it's kind of, it's an extension of Rebirth. It's a small group setting, but again, composition is very prominent in it.
Awesome. Well, we can't wait. I cannot wait for that to come out so I can
Yeah.
study it.
Oh man.
Right. I think we're all going to study it. Thank you guys so much for joining me. And I can't wait to see you guys again. Be safe, be well, and continue blessings, man.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you.